myself with the gun.
Yeah.
When I look at things statistically, back to my rationalization agenda here, it doesn't seem statistically in your best interest to have one around for your own safety.
No, that's for fucking sure. I read this article about, like, not that I'm depressive, but you have your moments, right? But
sure.
In England, the suicide rate went down dramatically when they changed the type of natural gas that was available in the ovens to a less toxic type of gas. That the number of people that just didn't follow through because it didn't work out was like,
I'm picturing some awful, macabre comic moments where some, person in a desperate state, what the fuck is wrong with this gas?
Exactly. But then they live through that, and the next day they feel okay. That's the point, is that if you don't have the gun in that moment, you're probably going to get a night's sleep and be all right. It's
a smart move to put as many impediments in the way of those kind of
self-destruction?
Yeah.
So wait, how old are you when the folks split up, though?
We were living in Long Island, and they were divorced when I was 6. So that was like 1974. Right. And then they tried to make it work again, and that's when we moved to Dallas because my dad had the business opportunities. But as you could hear from my previous stories, those business opportunities didn't lead to more security and predictability. So my mom did the smart thing and let him move out on his own. And
with his umbrella hats?
Yeah, with his umbrella hats, precisely, which did not fit in his new singles apartment, I can assure you. He was the kind of guy who had storage spaces everywhere. Like, we just need to run out to Plano for an afternoon. What's going on? Well, got to check out the storage space. I believe I've uncovered a few gems and of course, you just go pick out shit, and we go to the flea market and try to sell it there.
Oh God! So he was like, he was just like not even a good hustler, really.
Yeah, exactly. He was a marginal hustler. Anytime
there's a flea market involved, that's hit or miss.
And hit or miss. Not if that's where you're aiming. If you're aiming there, flea market, you're going to come in 9 times out of 10. You're going to come out happy because it's not like you're going to make a killing one way or the other. And if you don't sell it, I mean, it's not like you have a whole lot at stake. But I do have a big affection for flea markets and people on the fringes. I think for that reason.
Yeah, well, I mean, if it's part of your childhood, I mean, how are you not gonna? Yeah, like there's moments where I used to love to go to the flea market, but my dad, there's part of my childhood where he.
What did he do?
No, my dad, he didn't sell at the flea market, but I used to go to the flea market all the time because I was fascinated with it. All I remember is there was a doctor in town who my father knew, and who was Jewish. We're Jewish. This guy was Jewish, and he used to sell Nazi paraphernalia at the flea market. And I could never quite connect it, but I was sort of found it kind of fascinating.
Well, I mean, immediately I jumped to the notion that, like, if he can make a few bucks off these fuckers, that's a thorn in
back in the old days. It was the old days, and it was real stuff. It was like the real, like it wasn't kind of new. It's not like today where they're making the stuff new for the new generation.
Exactly. Well, and he may not have thought through thoroughly who he was selling to, like who might want to collect this kind of stuff.
That's true. That's true. But my dad, we used to there was a period there where he was into showing to dog shows. So there's part of my life that there's dog shows involved. So I have sort of a soft spot for it, but I don't go to them.
Well, Best in Show was enough for me to.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. So you're moving around. So where did you end up going to high school? Dallas?
Well, I went to a lot of different schools. In Dallas at the time, there was busing, and so I was at a elementary school in one area, and then I went to a middle school. We were bused to a middle school for 7th and 8th grade, and then I went to high school for 1 year at Hillcrest High School, and then we moved down to South Florida
Oh my God.
Because my mom got remarried, and we went
How was
to,
that guy?
and we went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School, and it was a Catholic school. But I had an excellent time there. I really did. I thought they're most notable for their athletics program, and like Michael Irvin went there. He was there when I was there, and
Yeah.
Brian Piccolo. Remember Brian's song?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
Chris Evert.
Oh,
And
really? They all went there?
they all went there, and I was not. I mean, as you might be able to tell by my size, a stellar athlete. But I did
soccer.
wrestle.
You could do soccer. Oh, wrestle. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't fast enough. In fact, I loved playing soccer when I was younger. But when at my freshman year at Hillcrest, I tried out for the team, and I just started to grow. I was always the shortest kid in class.
Yeah.
Me and Richard Winfield, we would compete for shortest kid just about every year. But then,
how's that guy? I wonder what he's up to.
He's great, actually. He's a lawyer in Dallas, and I think he does really well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think better. I think he won. But
he's a little lawyer in Dallas.
I think he's bigger now, just like me,
Oh,
almost
good.
average size. But I had just started to grow and became, wildly uncoordinated, and was so slow that they called me Flash. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm done with this shit.
Right.
And I wrestled, but the one year I was not great at wrestling. I was kind of, I was there for the exercise, and I did like the sport. But the one year I didn't wrestle, we won state. It gives you some idea of my ability and the ability of the.
You didn't drag him down, huh?
I didn't drag him down. I wasn't there to weigh him down.
Are your folks still around?
My dad's not. No, he passed away in 2005. He was 63. But my mom is around, and like she's really the genesis of how I got into acting. She loved taking us to the theater and going to Broadway and stuff growing up. So
really, but how long? So wait. So you're in Florida.
First we were on Long Island. My dad was selling yarn.
Yarn,
because he was from a small town in North Carolina that had a yarn mill, and so he was selling that yarn here in the city.
So he worked out he worked out an angle with the yarn mill where he grew up?
This was before the angling. So what happened was when they came up to New York, I mean, I'm kind of putting this together. I don't know if this is true or not, but he comes up to New York to sell yarn, a legitimate business, like his dad was the vice president of marketing there. He got a job there selling the yarn. Here in the city, he was working in the garment district, and then he was in the garment district and got introduced to some people that he found more colorful than the fabric he was selling, and I think he was intoxicated by that life. My mom, meanwhile, was like, "Why are we at a mob funeral? That doesn't seem." Yeah, there's a lot going on there, but she loved the arts, loved the theater, and so even after we moved to Dallas and Miami and Fort Lauderdale and stuff, she would still bring us back to New York to see plays, and I saw some phenomenal productions, and she was also like one of my primary support engines when I was younger about performing.
When did you first start doing the performing?
I would say, I don't know if you remember my first grade interpretation of Uncle Sam during the 4th of July festivities.
I've read about it. I read some of the many critical pieces on that.
Yeah, the smallest next big thing, I think it was called.
Yeah,
that's when what I discovered was my way, of fitting in, going to these different schools, was being the class clown. So I didn't have any problem humiliating myself in front of people, which is one of the crucial things about being an actor. There's not dignity in the act of doing it. It's
mostly. That a class? Is that a class at NYU?
There's no dignity in acting.
Getting over embarrassment by making a fool.
Well, it's funny you say that, because that is what people end up doing. There's not a specific class about it, but nearly everybody at some point or another makes themselves as vulnerable as possible. Often it's in the form of like being completely nude. Everybody has to get completely nude at some point in acting school just to bear their truth, Right. It's exhausting.
or just or the person that cries too much all the time, like no matter what
that's
they're
me
doing.
now, but it wasn't me then.
You were the nude guy.
I wasn't yet the nude guy. Actually, I wasn't nude until my first paying job in the city.
Oh yeah, that's how it usually works.
I was nude for $212 a week, and
welcome, kid. Welcome, kid. Take it out.
I was super excited about it until maybe 2 weeks into it, when I'm standing backstage in a pretty cold theater, thinking, "What the fuck am I doing right now?"
Which gig was this?
This was it was a kind of esoteric think piece on Japanese internment camps. And I played the token.
So that was worth it, right? That was worth it.
It absolutely was, and I'll tell you why. Okay, this is a great freaking transition. I didn't even see this one coming, but it was at the Vineyard Theater, and the Vineyard Theater on Union Square, fantastic theater. They hired me a couple of years ago to do a solo performance of this guy David Cale's play. It was a one-man show, and so I played a bunch of different characters. It was an hour and 15 minutes long, but Jen Aniston and one of her producing partners came and saw that. And after they saw that, she was like, "I want you to be a part of the morning show. We just have to figure out at what capacity." So me doing that $212 job a week has brought me to, one of my favorite roles that I've had in
the same theater.
The same theater. I did it in the same theater. Yeah, it was pretty. It was pretty cool.
But going back to your mom, like, so you were always doing stuff on stage throughout junior high.
Yeah,
high
there
school.
wasn't an acting program at St. Thomas. As you know, they put most of their money into the athletics department.
Yeah.
But when I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and
that's
when
a
I
nice
was
town.
Yeah, I love Chapel Hill, man. That's a great town. Have you worked there before? Done shows there? Yeah, it's a really great town. But I started out as like a business major because I don't know. I suppose that's what you were supposed to do at school. And then,
well, with such an impressive father as a role model of what's possible.
It was kind of, and I haven't thought about this in a while, but his mom passed away the day that I graduated from high school, and he had always vowed to her that, because he didn't finish Chapel Hill. He had like 9 hours left or something, like he had to take 3 or 4 classes. Told her he was going to finish. She passed away when I graduated, and he went back to summer school in Dallas so he could graduate and get his degree just before I started there. So he was very proud that he was a straight A student. He had a backpack that he gave me that I then used, when I was in school there.
Yeah.
So, there was some charm to it, but maybe that's why I got into business. That was my first major. I thought, well, some of us needs to know how to do it.
Yeah, he got it done.
He did. He graduated.
Yeah, so you thought I'm just going to he didn't quite master it, but I'm going to be the guy.
Exactly. Let's give this generation a second go. But my first semester, it was clear that I was not going to succeed well as a business major. So I just started taking as many different kinds of classes as I could. And I took this one class called Oral Interpretation of Prose and Poetry that was taught by Paul Ferguson. And he became like an immediate mentor to me. And I knew that these were my people. Like I didn't know what it was that we were doing with this art form. Nobody was going to really pay to see this. We did a production of James Joyce's short story Clay, I think it was called. That it's not a play, so you have to spend half your time figuring out how to make it a play, and then you use the narration as a part of your first person speaking. It's weird stuff.
Yeah.
But what it allows you to do is think creatively about what kind of thing you're engaging in. It's not just about I've been dying to play Annie.
Yeah.
By the way, I have been dying to play Annie, and I'm not going to settle for Daddy Warbucks. But I made A's, and so I could be a good student there while taking these performance classes. And I became a communications major because I thought, well, who's going to go into acting? And I can use the communication major as my way into the workplace. And pretty soon I had taken all the performance classes in there. And then I started going to the drama department, taking classes there. And then the drama teachers there Susanna Reinhardt, Didi Corvinus. They like convinced me that I could take some of the major classes there. So by the time I had finished, I'd taken every performance class at Chapel that they offered.
And you were doing productions as well?
I was doing productions too. Yeah, I think that, let's see, I did You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. I did